So here I am on like my 37th fucking take on the introduction to this video. I want to make it like as small and short and concise as humanly possible. So here we go, hoping that this is the one. This video is going to be a completely different thing that we usually do with the Library of Ruina, in that there's no gameplay. None at all whatsoever. We're just going to be doing a lot of lore reading from all the different stories and stuff on the key pages that we have gotten in the game thus far, including ones that I had gotten off-screen. I did a bunch of different things off-screen that we'll be talking about at the beginning of the video, but let's move on to the more pressing matters. We're going to call this sub-series the Library of Ruina Lorebook. Okay? That's what we're going to call it. I'm not going into any fucking, like, Vati Vidya-style fucking cracking the code of Lobotomy Corporation bullshit, but you guys are more than welcome to theorize and talk about whatever the hell that you want to stir up discussion. Sure, absolutely. But we're just going to be reading the lore on all the different key pages as we go through the game, like I said. And I want to try to plan these after each chapter of the game is done. This is going to be the only one that's a real difference in the way that it works. So, you know, just bear with me here. So at the start I go over what I had done off camera, like I said, all the different things that I had accomplished, and then we move over to the actual lore reading. Now what I didn't realize is that my voice is really quiet. Like I am doing right now, I am recording without my Yeti microphone actually up on the stand in front of my face, like a boom mic should be. So it's really quiet in comparison to the game volume, so I apologize for that. You're just going to need to turn the volume up a little bit if you need to hear me, but, you know, do, like, volume testing for that when it happens, because I could be pretty varied, and I can't really balance it after that. I'm sorry, I didn't balance the volume as well as I could have in this, but I'm going to leave it off on that, guys, so, yeah, that's really about it. So take it easy, enjoy yourselves. Thank you for joining me along this trip with the story and all that fun stuff. It's going to be a long one, and you know what? Fuck it, I'll say it. May you find your book in this place. There we go. I said it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Library of Ruina. So this is going to be a little later into the series. This should be, I believe, the 12th episode in. Let me check on that really quickly. Yes, sequentially based off of recording time, this will be the 12th episode in my series. However, this is going to be a completely different kind of episode than I usually do. And we're going to call this the Library of Ruina Lorebook, or some fucking equivalent. I don't know. Look, I'm going to put the episode number on here, but basically we're going to be reading through all the different stories that I have from my cards that I've collected up to this point. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to keep catching up on these every time that I clear a chapter or something, and then I'll just read through them all, so yeah. Before we get into this, though, I also want to show you guys what pages that I've done and all of that other stuff since the 11th episode. So, for one, Ahad is maxed out. For two, Yesod is maxed out. I don't think I have Malkith or any of the Librarian pages maxed out, but Roland's already been maxed out for a long time now. But aside from that, we also have a number of fucking pages. I have unequipped everything. I haven't done anything with the 3 rats, but obviously the Yun's Office Fixer's good, Finn's has been at 20, Ares has been at 20. We have 2 Yun's pages maxed out, and then I realized that there are other pages that are better than Yun. Whoopsies! But he's still got a good page regardless. So scroll back up, goddammit. Constance page is maxed. I haven't done anything with Arnold's page. I might do something with Arnold's page. I don't know. It has the same passive as Electric Shock, so I don't know. Moe's page has been maxed. We got the Hook Office Fixer page maximized. McCullen, Naoki, and Tayan all maxed out. None of the Butchers are maxed. Jack's page, Pierre's page, Mars page, and we have another Mars page. This, by the way, I know it's an object d'art, however you're supposed to pronounce that properly. I don't speak French, but this fucking page is broken. This is so broken versus everything in the game. Not only is it endured normal for resistances on everything in the game, but you see this right here? For anybody who's unaware, that's 2 speed dice. That means that he rolls 2 speed dice between 2 to 5 and can attack twice. Obviously, this is one hell of an impact on your light, but it doesn't matter. You can attack twice in whatever order that your speed dice indicate. On top of it, it has 2 built-in passives. These blues are unique to the card, and then the yellows are randomly obtained at level 10 and 20. This is how these work, by the way. So, Fly, I'm talking to you. That is how they work. I had to Google all of that stuff, so I know how that works. And like I said, I just had to get all of these pages. We were missing Pierre's page, but I have it now, and her page is pretty fucking mean, too. Not gonna lie. We have a couple of really good pages for fucking later on. It's mostly Jack's and Pierre's are really mean, because 20% HP on killing an enemy, and then 2 HP at the start of each scene. It's like the ideal tank fucking set right there, and I love it. So, we have some good pages to set people up with later on down the line, but I do believe that we have some lore that we need to crack down on. So, I know there are these pages to read. I don't think there's anything in the combat bookshelf that we have to read. I think it's just these pages right here, to be honest with you. But let me just make sure 100% here, and go to Burn Book. Just want to make sure there's no, there are no other tabs. So it's just those pages, I think. So correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but this will be the first time that we're actually reading through any of these key pages. So let's begin with Mang Chi's page. And they're also pretty short too, which is pretty neat. Did you know there's grades for each alley in the back streets? Funny, ain't it? Trash and a trash can are grading at each other. The parts that are under the protection of a syndicate, office, or association are pretty safe. Sweepers can't raid those streets easily. Putting the people who live there in a different grade from those who don't, though, it's pointless. Honestly speaking, sure, it's a bit safer over there, but we're talking about the back streets. Get it? Back streets, back! Anyway, I apologize. I don't actually apologize for that, though, because that is my childhood. Boy bands are a part of childhood if you're a 90s baby. Sorry. Ugh. You know what's funnier? Even kids would group themselves according to what part of the streets they live in. They'd even shun the others whose clothes or manner didn't fit their turf's style. I had no choice but to accept the sad truth. You wondering how things were in the back alleys that I lived? Couldn't afford to pay protection fees to a syndicate, but... fucking heck. Couldn't afford to pay protection fees to a syndicate, so the sweepers came down at night and collected most of my neighbors. They just sweeped those bitches up and just threw them in a fucking laundry bag and dragged them off. Anyway, I had to witness them take chunks off of flesh out of my parents and brothers while they were still breathing. Don't pity me, though. My story ain't nothing special around here. Damn. Once again, though, going into the usual with this game, where just the world is kind of fucked up and people kind of just accept things how they are. It's why Roland and stuff are just kind of immune and numbed to death. Interesting thing, by the way, guys, is you get some interesting dialogue from Yesod, honestly. Very, like, calculated as he normally is, but he has a line in there where he basically laments over the fact that he's used to witnessing death. So, I just found that one interesting. On to the next page, though. We're on Pete's page. There's not a lot of peeps who hang around in the back streets alone. It's because that's just madness. Weak and dowdy folks gotta band together to survive, get into a small syndicate or anything to make a living somehow. Some ignorant fool makes a scene in the back streets on their own, and they're just making themselves a target as soon as others notice they're alone. That's why we move in groups. We're called rats for a reason. We crawl about the dark in packs and jump at prey for the chance to bite them apart when we spot one. So, you wondering if we rats have any dreams? I guess belonging to a proper syndicate, if any. We're just too tacky and amateurish to be called one. We hate being bound to rules, so hell will freeze over before one of us joins an office. And no rat I know would move to an examinee town and study for wing entrance exams. Those nerds at examinee towns ain't too different from rats like us. We're all dreaming silly dreams that'll never come true with our petty skills, an office, a wing, a syndicate, or whatever. Think it's an easy task to belong to a decent group? People just accept what they got and live on. But still, I want to have a dream. Honestly, Pete's kind of an admirable dude. He's not a douche, really, but, like, I don't know, he never came off as an asshole to me as part of the storyline, so I didn't really dislike Pete. I just was kind of detached from the rats. They didn't really, like, sink their teeth into the sadness in the same exact way that, like, the Mars fight does. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't really set it up that way yet. Anyway, on to the next one, I suppose. Might as well continue this going forward, because we got a lot of pages to go. Want to hear a secret? is kind of embarrassing, but I used to have a dream once. Like Pete does now. Yeah, I know. I'm still younger than him with a long future ahead of me, but what could I do? Life's too rough for that. Others say that rats are a pathetic bunch who are too incompetent to join even the smallest syndicate, let alone a wing. Filthy losers who feed on junk and leftovers, not making any effort to change. But when I was a young kid, I didn't like that. I thought I was better than those rats, so I decided to get into an examinee town. Little did I know that it'd be the one choice I'd regret the most. I begged and nagged my parents, wanting to achieve that stupid dream. How'd it go, you ask? Seems you're just as stupid, aren't you? I wouldn't be hanging out with these folks if I made it now, would I? What I'm saying is dreaming won't do jack shit for you. They didn't end up here because they gave up trying. Hell, they wouldn't have set foot on this gutter in the first place if they had what it takes to achieve their dreams. You get it now? Pete's a huge idiot. I don't know why, but that gave me like a Wicked Axel fucking feeling. I don't know if that's actually a line that he says as Reno, by the way, because that's the same voice actor in Advent Children that is Axel from fucking, from Kingdom Hearts 2, but you know, the whole "you getting it now" as he points to his head thing. It's beautiful. But that just reminded me of that very, very desperately, but yeah. Again, we're going in more with the same thing that they always try to hammer into your head anyway. It's subtle, and then sometimes it's not subtle with, like, hopelessness and stuff of just several situations across the series. I hope we don't unlock more lore. No. I was gonna say, by leveling up the page. Let me get some coffee. I apologize if you guys are hearing my fan in the background. Once again, I don't have a choice in the matter. It's just really fucking hot, and you need to circulate air in order to not die. Okay. The Society of Fixers is built entirely up in meritocracy. The greater you are, the higher you can climb. On the other hand, if you don't have the capability, you should be thankful for any org that accepts you and stay low. Thing is, capability can mean many things. For some, it could be physical strength, and others might be superior intellect. It seems kinda unfair to me that they make arbitrary evaluations of a concept that can be taken in so many different ways. Not that I think I have some hidden talent that deserves a better grade or anything. Though, I do feel a bit upset, but I think I'm at the right place. The jobs I usually do are looking for lost cats at night. You can tell how low my spot is, yeah? I'm not a huge fan of the jobs I'm doing now. Of course, I mean, sure, I wouldn't say no to some flashier requests. I just accepted to carry on with my life. There's also some mirroring you can see in this in our own society, too, especially with, like, grading and all of this. I could go on a tirade about society and grades and schools and stuff, and all of that crap, but this isn't the place to put that. So here's what I've been looking forward to right here, Finn's page. So let's get on with a couple of hardcovers. It's been a while, sis. Actually, I talked to you some time ago, but by myself, of course. It sounds a bit lonely, but I'm fine. Today's not going to be the same as the days before. I have good news. I finally joined an office run by this guy named Yun, and officially became a fixer. You're proud to see your precious little younger brother grow up and make it, aren't you? Isn't it cool? I told you there's no need to worry about me. Oh, about Yun's office. I think it's a really nice place. No, I'm not lying. Our operator Yun is a bit cold, but he teaches me a lot of things. And there's also Eri, who's my senior. I've yet to be friends with her, but she seems like a good person too. For now, they're giving me small jobs, like searching for lost cats. Maybe they're worried I'm too inexperienced to handle tougher stuff. It's not really fancy, but if I start out with the small tasks like this and work up slowly, I'm gonna be a great fixer one day, yeah? My heart is already pumping with excitement. When I become a proud and dashing fixer, I'll buy a Nest migration ticket and get a nice home for you. I could buy my gear at a workshop thanks to your help, and all that, though it's not all. You always looked after me, sis. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about this. Anyway, don't worry about me. And do the things you want to do. I know you were always too busy caring for me to pursue your own interests. You offered to give me a prosthetic body, or even a minor procedure at last time we met, but I'm doing fine without any of that stuff. And you got money to earn for yourself. Tired. So, I'll be going now. I ran around the whole town chasing a cat all day. Night, sis. I hope we see each other again. Right in the feels. That's the sound of me punching you in the dick. Ah! Why? This game's good with that, though. Like, remember? So, here's the thing with Project Moon. This is the thing that they're really good at, okay? Game design and all that other stuff, okay, whatever. There's some other things that they could be working on to get better, but, like, that's how you learn, right? Is you gotta just get into the industry and you make games and then you learn from the mistakes and the things that you do well and feedback and all that other stuff. But Project Moon is really good at writing, more or less. And you could pull this apart if you really wanted to get into story writing, character writing, all of that stuff. I'm sure you could find plot holes. I'm sure you could find errors. I'm sure you could find mistakes. It's not perfect at all. But what it is definitely more than serviceable. It is above average. The way that they do things, they set things up properly to drive your brain to go in a situation where you do care about the characters. Like, take all the Saphira, for example. They have character building to it. They design their backgrounds, why they do the things that they do. They have reasoning for their mentalities and the things that they give a shit about based off of how they were as humans. And it translates over into their Saphira bodies and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, they have good character writing. Let's take the fucking Mars fight, for example. If you guys haven't seen up until episode 11, this is going to be spoilery, but let's just take that fight, for example, right there. I didn't notice it at the time, but Mars is the only person who gets turned into a book during that fight. Lenny and San run away, and they make it a lot more obvious now because they don't change into books. Moreover than that, Mars, when he gets changed into a book, uses the line, 50-50 I think, uses the line, "I should have told her how I feel," another punch to the gonads right there. Not only do you kill the man who very clearly is set up and established, there's more character building in the cutscene before you get into that fight, telling you about the relationship of all three of these people in that office of San, and Mars and Lenny. I say Lenny, but it's not Lenny, it's Lulu. Than I've seen in a lot of other games. There's so much character building in just the way that their interactions are. And then you have to kill them. Not only that, but you only kill Mars, the other two run away, and now you have to kill Lulu and probably San in a later part. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you really don't want to do it, but it's not just like a one and done. Like, they did something different right there to really make an impact. It's different. You remember it, and honestly, it hurts. Like, it hurts if you're invested in the story, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that kind of stuff. It's not just like a pointless, we're gonna introduce this character and kill them off later on, and just, oh, they fell in love with this person. No, you actually give a shit about Mars and Lulu and San. It's just interesting the way that they do that shit. So, before I go too far off on a tangent here, this is going to be a really long episode if you guys haven't already seen the timestamp. I'm probably going to timestamp it so that you guys know when each of these books are, so you can just skip around the video. But we're going to go sequentially from top to bottom anyway, so you could just skip up until I'm reading off these pages anyway. We're doing them in sequence. So, on to the next one. You have lots of things to prepare before you can... Yeah, you have lots of things to prepare before you can jump into the fixer business. Starting with choosing equipment, you'll need clothes to protect your bodily accessories, etc. But before any of that, body augmentation comes first. There's no point in having masterful skills or fancy equipment if your body can't keep up, you know? And training hard isn't gonna do it. There's a limit to training your body, and the fittest body is still no match for mechanical prosthetics or bionic organs. You gotta be able to keep your body intact to do anything, so you're pretty much forced to spend a fortune on it. There's a ton of methods to enhance your body. Exoskeletons, bionic surgeries, nano tattoos, prosthetic body parts, you name it. Deciding what workshop tech to employ is up to preference and purpose. Some would want insane muscular strength that could let them carry a power pole one-handed, and others would want ludicrous speed, quick enough to skip over multiple blocks in a split second. It's so diverse, you could go on forever. You need any ability, they've got you covered. The only hurdle is money. In the city, money is what gets you power. That's why the first thing we notice when we assess our foes is how much they've spent on their bodies. Oh, of course, some technologies patented by closed groups, like certain syndicates or wings, are hard to get your hands on, even if you have all the cash in the world. Just look at me, though. It took a teensy little procedure for me to lift this humongous weapon with one hand. This is the kind of power you can get. You see, body augmentation is more of a necessity than an option these days, so you'll want to study up on that. You don't want to stay a weakling when everybody else is getting their augmentations now, do you? Just got a point. I never noticed any augmentation were there, though, so, like, I don't know if one of her arms is bionic or whatever the case is with that, though, but this also sets up a pretty good precedence over, like, again, the importance of body augmentation, which leads directly into the next chapter, by the way, which is these three. So, it makes sense. So let's go ahead and wrap up the Yun's office right here with Yun's page. Finn was bungling in many ways. He had no talent. He refused to take modification procedures. All he armed himself with was a tiny weapon. I didn't exactly dislike him, though. They say a delicate person like him is nothing short of pathetic here. But he had passion, regardless, and he was going to be our colleague from now on. Besides, it's not too common to see such passionate fellows in this grueling mess of a city. He was an interesting one. Then why did I exploit him? Exploit is a rather harsh word to describe it, if you ask me. A sloppy kid like him would have gotten killed anyway, abducted in the back streets and fading away while witnessing his innards getting ripped from his body. And that's one of the tamer examples I could give. In this city, worse things are happening here and there on a daily basis. If he didn't die there, he could have faced much more terrible fate somewhere else. Isn't that right? Never mind. This is all but rationalization. Think what you want. Interesting. Again, with the moral ambiguity of things. He's got a point, though. Like, at the time, I didn't like Yun because he did get Finn killed, but, like, at the same exact time, though, like, there is a weird way to empathize with Yun and his thought process. Like, you know what I mean? It is interesting that way because he does have a point. He's not necessarily wrong, and he never came off as a complete dirtbag. He liked Finn. He definitely did. So, I don't know. I like how they are really good at establishing, like, those gray zones in this game, rather than just making somebody bad for bad reasons. And it's not like, hey, this person is, like, basically the second coming of Adolf Hitler, but, hey, he had a bad past, so feel bad for him. It's like, no, they're a shitbag anyway. So, like Bina, for example, let's be honest, she's a bag of shit. But she's a cool fucking character, like, you know what I mean? But there's nothing about her character or anything that you read up or that you see with her backstory in Lobotomy Corporation that makes you think, alright, I genuinely feel bad for Bina and I forgive her for the shit that she did. No, she's a fucking bag of shit. But she's a cool bag of shit. On to Consta, my love. She has a funny line, by the way, when you beat her. I think Consta's a chick. I'm not 100% sure, but Consta has a hilarious line when you beat her, because I had to grind through these to get the more copies of the Endure cards and stuff earlier. And the line is something to the effect of, I should have eaten more delicious food before I died. It's kind of sad, but funny, and just in character, I liked it. It was like, fucking Consta. God damn it. And of course, we're going right in, doubling down on food. Well done, Project Boon. What's your favorite food? That's the question I used to ask the most when I still had a human body. I love eating. Talking about food was a huge delight for me. We would share each other's tastes and preferences, and sometimes head to a restaurant for a meal, just like that. But now, my body's a machine, as you can see. I can't taste anything anymore. Thanks for pointing that out. Mo told me to stop dreaming about it. I still want to try more delicious foods, though. Hot and flavorful, spicy and sweet, stuff like that. I guess this body is too cheap to restrain delusional thoughts like this. If we get more money and change our bodies to new ones, then maybe I'll be able to stop these thoughts from getting in the way of my work? Consta, you cupcake. You absolute cupcake. Let's go to Arnold. The city consists of 25 nests and 25 districts of the backstreets that surround those nests. I've always wanted to know more about, like, the nests. I got a general concept of it, though, but I need to know more of that. And 25 districts of the backstreets that surround these nests. And countless offices and syndicates reside in the backstreets. You know what's a surefire way for a syndicate to make a name for itself among all the competitors? The simplest method is office raiding. You literally storm into an office and wreak havoc on it. Excuse me. You never know who will be the winner until you fight. It could stop at a good beating and one side surrendering, but some syndicates raid offices out of pure boredom and kill everyone. Each syndicate has its own way of operation. It goes without saying that the syndicate has more fame to gain out of raiding a high-grade office filled with seasoned fixers. So the offices have to stay sharp at all times, but you'll also have to watch it. If you misjudge your opponents, you'll end up dead before you could try anything. Interesting. I wonder if we'll get to witness an office raid at some point. I wonder if this is like foreshadowing, because I wonder what the point of this story being here is. It gives you some perspective and a little bit more on the city being divided up and stuff, and just normal things within the city, but I wonder if there's a reasoning for this being here. Nobody spoiled that, by the way. For anybody who already knows the story for everything up ahead, try not to spoil things that happen later on down the line, please. I will make that abundantly clear and draw that line in the sand right now. Also, if I sound weird, my microphone actually isn't up and mounted. It's just against the table right now, so sorry if I sound quieter. I just don't want to set up the microphone. Probably is better for the winds, too. But I'm wondering about what this is going to mean for later on in the story. On to Mo's page. So, first, coffee. I frankly don't recommend replacing your entire body with a machine, especially with a cheap one. Aside from basic issues such as vulnerability to damage and creaky noises, cheap prosthetic bodies compromise too much. You're basically giving up all the joys of life. Can you imagine? You can't taste anything when you eat delicious food. You can't feel the softness and coziness of a good bed. You can't feel anything get stuck in your body, be it a piece of paper or a knife. The head remembers those feelings, but you can't experience them again. There are some ways to overcome it, though. You can buy a desire simulation chip and plug it into your brain, inject medications, or use other methods. They're just absurdly expensive. You're better off saving for a more expensive prosthetic body if you really want your senses back. High-quality, pricey bodies come with sensory organs. As I always say, it's all about money in this world. So this tells us one main thing about Mo right here, in that she wasn't gung-ho about getting a prosthetic body, which is interesting. You could probably assume as much, but this pretty much solidifies it right there. She didn't ever want any interest in having a body, but you have to. It sets that precedent again that in order to survive, you kind of fucking have to. Like, you probably are going to be put in a situation where it's that, or you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation against other people when you have to be put in a one-on-one fight, or even not a one-on-one fight, you know what I mean? That could mean the difference between life or death, so. Interesting perspective on Mo. Back when we were still part of the Killer Syndicate, we got a client asking us to hunt some crazed syndicate. They were shaking like a drenched rat as they came in. I suppose they were scared of places like this. They asked us to catch the wicked criminals kidnapping people in the parts of the streets they live in. We had one question, though. It's nice that they're giving us a job, but why ask a syndicate like ours instead of going to the Sway or other offices that are better suited for handling public safety issues? As they said, they did try to request an office at first with the money raised by their neighbors. But then the office asked for a ridiculous sum of money, claiming that there's much preparation they need to take before they can uproot a whole syndicate. Poor fellow begged for help, but the office personnel didn't even flinch. Well, money is the only thing that gets fixers moving, so that's understandable. And I think their friend recommended us. Yeah, I think it's recommended, but the typing is wrong right there. Zoom in on that, Barry. I'm not just crazy. Recommended us to them while they were looking for another way. If I remember it right, introduced us as a trustworthy syndicate, so they came all the way to our hideout. Trustworthy syndicate. It's a shame, really. I can still remember the client's head staring daggers at me, hanging from the top of a power pole. Wait, what? The syndicate paid us more cash. What could I do about it? We don't write official contracts or anything, so the highest bidder gets our favor. No use glaring at me like that, Pa. We were told by our new client to hang their head and guts out in the streets to make an example of them. Those sick fucks even used some kind of singularity to keep him alive. Poor bastard. Should have requested an office in the first place somehow. Alright, I get where that's going now. The turnaround confused me for a minute. So they killed the people who asked them to take down the other syndicates. So, hang on, hanging from the top of this, it paid us more. So the syndicate they wanted to go up against paid them more to keep their mouths shut, essentially, or to fucking take them out. The question is, what syndicate are they talking about now? I'm sure this is setting up something for later on down the line and what syndicate they're talking about. They said that there's 25... No, there's not 25 syndicates. There's 25 districts and 25 nests. So there's basically an infinite number of syndicates. There's not like a process of elimination we can do here. But I'm willing to bet that we're going to bump into the syndicate that they're talking about later on down the line. So, yeah, basically that's what they're going over right here. Interesting. Interesting! Let's continue further. It's not entirely impossible for a syndicate member to engage in fixer work or vice versa. It's a pretty common occurrence, actually, for a syndicate member to engage in. So, syndicates employ fixers to do things for their syndicate. What makes the syndicate members different, though? I don't know if they actually talked about this now, but this is a genuine question for you guys. What makes the syndicate... And you can say this, it's fine. I don't think it's going to spoil anything later on down the line, but I would like to know, what makes a syndicate member different than a fixer? Doesn't that make you a part of the syndicate that way, or is it insinuating the fact that fixers kind of flip-flop what syndicate that they work for anyway, just based off of, like, the highest bidder and stuff, going off of what we just read about the Hook Office fixers? Because, obviously, there are Hook Office fixers and Yun's Office fixers, so... Because Yun is a syndicate member, he's not a fixer. So, he employed Finn. That's probably which explains his, like, I guess more or less apathy, or not really caring as much for him, is because he's just a fixer. You know what I mean? So, that does explain things, because I kind of looked at Yun as the same exact thing as a fixer for a little bit, but then I thought about it and I was like, wait, no, he's not a fixer. So, I imagine that's the difference between the two. Let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to grab more coffee here. Okay. It's a pretty common occurrence, actually. If you have the skills to back yourself up, multiple organizations will make sweet offers to recruit you. What matters the most here is the relationships you've built. Your fate depends on the things you've done, or karma, in other words. We didn't start out as fixers at the beginning. No, we were in fact a part of a homicidal syndicate. Just see how intimidating we look. We used to be murder for hire in District 23. It was a small syndicate ran by Naoki, I, and a few others. But our influence started to expand bit by bit since the young and talented Tane joined us. Our current boss was originally the representative of an office we raided. They visited us once they heard we shredded their fixers brutally and hung their ragged corpses in the streets like scarecrows, since they'll need people like us. I thought they were just freaky, with weird tastes, but looking back, now I get why they chose us. It's a strategy. Each office does all kinds of sensational stunts to attract the attention of potential clients in this oversaturated market. They hold radical events, such as pay for one request. Hi, kitty. Hi. Sorry about that. Pay one request, get one for free. Or group weapons into different grades and offer a free exchange for one of their most expensive ones. And the gullible clients fall for it. They don't know how much more that 1+1 deal actually costs, or how it has limitations on the grades of requests you can make. They don't bother looking up to check if the top-grade weapons are in fact used ones. Seems our boss didn't want to add lies to this industry that's already full. Didn't want to. Alright, full of filthy schemes. But they still had to catch people's eyes somehow. and this is the result. Hire guys like us and proudly advertise it. Fixers from a former killer syndicate will tear things up for you. You can count on us. Hang up a slogan like this, people get hooked up. If that suits their taste, that is. Interesting. Very interesting. McCullen is a weird, interesting character, too. I can't say I dislike McCullen. He is a very interesting character because of the fact that he's very rational and he sees shit as it is. He kind of goes with the flow with things. He doesn't have any particular, like, disliking traits about him because, again, he's a rational thinker. He doesn't just insult people or throw shit out at people. He's just an intimidating fucking guy that was a murderer, and it's that simple. He just does what he needs to do. Now, let's go back through this one from the beginning. So, District 23. I have a book from this. District 23, I think, also counts the Backstreet's Butcher, correct? I might be wrong about this, but let's back out of here for a moment. Burn Book, Guide to District 23. Yes, so this has your Backstreet's Butchers on it. And I think there is, yeah, the Hook Office Fixer. So this is just the Hook Office. Hook Office 1 is only the Fixers. Hook Office 2 can hold all of these. So they all definitely work for Hook Office. We had never bumped into the leader of Hook Office, though. So we never really bumped into that person. I don't know who the fuck they're talking about who employed McCullen in the first place. We might find out through Tan, and I get a feeling that Naoki is going to wind up exploring more about, like, their old murdery shit back in the day. So that'll be interesting there. But back to McCullen. There are a couple of points I had in here that I can't think of now. I gotta scroll through this. So fixes at the beginning and a homicidal syndicate. I want to know the homicidal syndicate they're talking about, because I'm willing to bet the homicidal syndicate ties in with this shit as well, to be honest with you. I bet it ties in with the Hook Office, where they were talking about the people that were shaking, trying to get the Hook Office to deal with it, and then they killed the people who fucking hired them in the first place. I'm willing to bet it is the same syndicate, and we're going to find out about them later. It might even be the Backstreet's Butchers. But let's continue to, wait, hold on. Is that all my points that I wanted to go over? I also don't quite understand what they're going at right here. If somebody wants to clarify this as well, with the whole pay for one request, get one for free kind of thing. Because, like, he says that he wasn't lying. He didn't want to put in, like, shady business practices and lies and stuff like that to, like, the weapons, to the buy one, get one free. But he wanted to advertise, like, you know what I'm saying? So I guess he's saying that he wanted to advertise these three. It didn't give a shit about whether or not that he lost them in the first place. In fact, expected fully to lose them in the first place to save his own hide, is what my impression is of this. I could be wrong. But let's go ahead and move on here. So, yet another sip of coffee. There's a huge variety of workshops. As diverse as syndicates and fixers are, weapons need individuality to stand out in this day and age. Old-fashioned swords or guns won't stand a chance against modern weapons loaded with new technology. I bet. Sorry. From cheap and common gear to bionic equipment like the one Tayan's using. Interesting, I was wondering about that actually. To equipment with ridiculous abilities that's almost indistinguishable from magic. Don't get too hyped, though. More options means you need to be more cautious about choosing the right one for you. If you had the time and money, you could buy them all and test them out at your leisure, but you have neither, or we have neither, do we? Don't just buy the things others recommend without doing your own research, though. That's one of the stupidest things you can do. Might fit them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have a good time with it. Still confident that you can wield them well? Well, get real, buddy. Workshop equipment is not your average weaponry, so before you choose your weapon, observe others carefully. See if the workshop or any workshop products might suit you. Having keen eyes is all part of your skills. Guess why people choose us in our office out of all the tough fixes out of there. Whatever. Guess why people choose us. So yeah. Gotcha. Interesting. Didn't give me the information I was hoping out of it, though, but it makes sense. Now on the Tan, so we'll probably be able to get a little bit more out of his weapon, possibly, or at least his shit. So, just his whole take on this. Ugh. How's my new weapon? Isn't it sick? Union Co. is the go-to workshop, brand for ready-made bionic weapons and equipment. Their prices are pretty reasonable compared to most procedures and workshop weapons too. On top of superb performance, you can replace or attach them easily without having to worry about allergies, so it's pretty damn handy, you see? Oh, bionic equipment is pretty simple. It's like a weapon you attach to your body. It's not at all scary or dangerous, though it could feel a bit awkward when you use it for the first time. In my case, I accidentally ripped Naoki's clothes while walking by and cut my own cheek when I flailed out of frustration. But now that I've gotten used to it, I feel that I have 3 hands. If you have trouble finding the perfect procedure or weapon for you, try bionic equipment. I guarantee it's good. Interesting! Did that go the direction that I think it did right there? I feel like Naoki's page is taking a stab at the way Taiyan is. You guys are welcome to correct me if you will, but it seems like she's describing Taiyan. Difficult for finding a weapon for you, so go with a bionic thing, and this directly tells you about it, is you need to do the research behind it. So, it kind of leads into the idea of how, like, Taiyan had gotten to his undoing. He was cocky because of his bionic weapon, and it led to this. That's interesting. I like the way that went out. Again, I could be wrong the way that I interpreted that, but I think that was the aim they were going for there. Interesting. We are going to read all of these, by the way. I would like to not, but we might as well continue to the first parts of the second chapter, right? Like, there's no reason not to. So let's start with the Backstreet's Butcher. One more sip of my coffee again. Let's move on. District 23 is the street of flavor. Everything is permitted in the pursuit of making delicious dishes. Even remembering humans, or dismembering humans. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, remembering and dismembering are 2 entirely different things. Make sure that you understand the difference. Google Translate. Anyway. A guest walked into a restaurant for a meal, but then the chef fell in love with them. They had the perfect amount of tenderness and girth. So much girth! The chef pulled out a knife, and the guest ended up on a plate. You'll become the food you appreciated one day, and others will appreciate what you've become. It's a common story often told in these streets. Well, if you really become the main character of one of those tales, be honored. That means the chef saw you as an excellent meat. This is one of the best compliments that you can hear in District 23. The more you know. Lovely. Butchering a human is a lot simpler than butchering other animals. Most of them are smaller than us, which means we can subdue them... Oh, a lot simpler, though? Which means we can subdue them right away even when they try to resist. Oh, I'm not saying you necessarily have to be tall to be a butcher, so don't be discouraged. Anyway, humans can be a bit noisy, but they're very handy to deal with overall since there's little to worry about compared to other meats. Where is he going with this? Fuck off, telemarketer. I'm reading lore right now. Fucking asshole. It literally says telemarketer on it, by the way. So let me just fucking silence my phone. God damn. Besides, the 8 chefs? For them, human meat is the one and only ingredient that matches their pursuit. Some buzz about how the process of cooking should be part of the flavor. You can't do that with any other meat, so you better watch it. If you dare wander this part of the town, your destination might end up being a dining table. It is an interesting premise of just kind of like literally dog-eat-dog shit. But, where was he? I don't understand the premise. Like, it starts out with the thesis of butchering a human is simpler than other animals, but then immediately says that it's easier for animals because you can overwhelm them. Like, it's weird the way that's worded. Maybe a translational thing? I don't know. But let's continue. I want more coffee. So we got 3 more pages to go, guys, and then we're done. Our usual source of cooking ingredients are syndicates specializing in butchery. The kinds of meat they treat and how they process it differs for each syndicate. God damn tongue, Jesus. Specializing in butchery, the kinds of meat they treat and how they process it differs for each syndicate. Okay. So you should pick your caterer carefully. Our meat pie bistro used to frequently trade with the musicians of Bremen and Little Piggies. Cool, they go into more detail about that. The musicians of Bremen provided large quantities of meat, though it wasn't exactly freshest. Shattered chips of bones were often in the meat, and a mixture of different types would create an odd flavor. It still was a reliable supplier of ingredient all in all. Outside of special occasions, we'd use them for making experimental dishes or sausages. Oh, speaking of, sausages are made from the mix of several different kinds of meat. You could even find a rat inside at times. Lovely, gross, disgusting. Anyway, we rarely sold the dishes made out of their meat other than the sausages. They'd never treat their meat nicely before handing it over to us. Okay. Just reading back through that one again. The meat from Little Piggies is pricey and comes in small quantities, but its quality is good. We even got the highest grade meat sometimes if we're lucky. Just looking at the meat from Little Piggies fills me with ideas about how to cook it. It makes my mouth water. That's how appealing the meat looks. But the price is rather heavy, so we only used it for important dishes or foods we serve to customers. But both syndicates suddenly said they're no longer selling ingredients for some reason. So now Pierre and I have to pioneer a new supply chain on our own. I don't think this is all too bad, though. I enjoy working with Pierre a lot. Okay. So again, we have background on those two, which is important because they didn't really fucking touch on it. They just mentioned them briefly in the cutscene. Now, what about this Pierre? Most cooks who live here have the same dream, becoming one of the 8 chefs. They're the people who pursue the ultimate delicacy. Their way of cooking will give you a thrill just hearing about it. You don't feel it? No, I'm sure you can feel it inside. I sound crazy? Yeah. Listen up, you stubborn square. This is why I can talk with people about people whose brains are too old. They taste bad, too. There's a limit to the flavors people can draw forth. The height of taste the human tongue can feel isn't as impressive as you might think, really. The most delicious food doesn't come close to sending chills down your spine. At most, it's just good enough to make your eyes spin. And the food you guys casually... I had a thing in my beard right there, sorry about that. It just weirded me out. Sending chills down your spine. And at most, it's just good enough to make your eyes spin. And the food you guys casually eat going, tasty, are way below that. So many chefs gathered round one time, pondering what to do to pursue a taste beyond this limit. And then inspiration struck all of them at the same time, like lightning. What if they sublimated the experience into taste? Something beyond what the tongue can feel, you know? They say the presentation of food adds to its taste, right? What if the whole process of cooking could be tasted? They performed several experiments in an attempt to make that dream come true. So? What do you mean, so? I wouldn't be trying hard if there was an end to delicacy. All the chefs are continuing their research to this day, seeking more stimulating flavors, and just want to be as good as the stain on their apron at least. Interesting perspective. Interesting artistic perspective, Pierre. Still makes you sound like a psychopath, but that's fine, but I at least glean the idea of what's going on there, and that kind of bothers me, in a way. I don't know how the hell that I was able to empathize, or not empathize, but, like, relate to that in some fashion. Weird. Anyway. Now let's finally read the page I've been wanting to read from the get-go, right here. Let's read Mars' page. Because I know already an idea of where this is going to go based off of what somebody was saying in the comments section before. My mother was a fixer with a high grade that every one of my peers would dream of reaching. She was the envy of all, a radiant individual who received endless supplies of various expensive equipment and garnered constant recruit offers from other offices. Does that mean I had a safe, comfortable child under the health, care, and wealth of such a wonderful person? Had that been the case, I would have earned a position in one of the wings already. Being the son of a high-rank fixer, I was often targeted by syndicates opposing her, and my mother's acquaintances held high expectations for me. At first, I was okay with their expectations. I was already dreaming to follow the path of my mother. In fact, I was hoping to live up to it, and hear compliments such as, "I knew you could make it," from others. Yes, I'm going to become a great fixer, just like my mother. Then she'll be proud of me one day, right? She'll proudly say, "That's my boy," in front of others. I studied hard, day after day, taking no breaks in between, countless times. I held my sword with a strong resolve, and many days I spent weeping alone. Even if I faced setbacks and failures, I believed I could overcome them, and stand strong like the protagonist of a movie, as if I could actually be someone great. But in the end, I grew into an ordinary, aspiring fixer, and I learned that I was only an average person with no talent to show off. When I entered an ordinary office with my ordinary capabilities, my mother seemed very glad to hear the news. She said an associate office of this way is a good start, and that I'll certainly be able— I already know where this is going then, son of a bitch. I figured that Zwei was coming up. And that I'll certainly be able to become successful if I work my way up slowly. However, I was greatly disappointed in myself, and I couldn't look my mother in the eyes until I said my final goodbyes and left the house. That's kind of disappointing, because this actually insinuates the reasoning why he was the only one that turned into a book, because he had to prove himself. He felt like he had to prove himself, at least. Because if he ran away, then who else was he other than just another fixer? Like, you know what I mean? That's honestly kind of fucking depressing. That's kind of fucking depressing, actually. Like, even more so than the whole situation is altogether, because that's the only reason that he stood behind. And you could say that maybe it was a part of it, too, because he wanted to, like— because I wondered if it was, like, he wanted to protect them, so he stood behind, you know, the heroic thing, but it's a little bit more selfish than that, to be honest with you. And again, that's just sad, really. Like, it's just kind of upsetting, really. But it begs the question of how the fuck did we win against him in the first— I guess he just wasn't as skilled at that moment or something, but I don't know, because, like, it kind of begs the question of how strong in comparison to everything going on is the library. You know what I mean? Like, how powerful are we actually canonically? And why are we able to pull this off? I can't wait to get this answered a little bit more later on. I'm sure that there's a little more of a power gauge to that shit, because, like, even in Lobotomy Corporation, there is a power gauge to things. Like, you know what I mean? There's a direct power gauge of what the Lobotomy Corporation could accomplish based off of things like Bina entering the facility. Gabora and Bina went head-to-head with each other, and essentially Gabora won. They tied out. They both lost, but at the same exact time, Gabora still fucking murdered her. Like, Bina was going to die. You know what I mean? So, it gives you a nice power gauge of where everybody stood, because, again— oh man, I can't wait until Gabora's a character, guys. Like, you do not understand. If you guys haven't done anything involving Lobotomy Corporation, let me just point out that Gabora is another Saphira, meaning that she's on the same level of basically what Hod and all of the other librarians are and stuff like that. Malkuth, Yesod. And Gabora is as powerful as a member of the Head is. And they are basically thrown at you. If you can't tell from the way the narrative is very imposing. You do not want to be in the fucking target reticule of somebody from the Head. It is not a place that you want to be. You will die. It is very imposing, and Gabora killed one. She fucking killed one, dude! Like, that's crazy. So, yeah. Alright, well, we're gonna leave off here, guys. This is the first episode of Lore Reading. I don't know what we're gonna name this episode, but I'll figure something out. I don't know, whatever. We'll call it fucking Library of Ruina Part 13 fucking Lore Reading 1, and I'll change the thumbnail a little bit, probably. So, take it easy. I will see you guys later.